This video is going to be particularly helpful for those of you who speak Russian, Arabic, Spanish, Portuguese, or Amharic. So you're going to pull your tongue back like you're making the G sound, but instead of releasing it quickly, you're going to hold it up there against the soft palate and vibrate your vocal cords to say this sound. Hi, my name is Marylise and I'm here with AmaAccents. We're going to jump right into our sound for today, which is the ng sound. The ng sound is represented by this symbol in the International Phonetic Alphabet. And in American English, we usually see it written as ng or nk. This sound is a sound you'll hear in words such as think and thing. You'll also always hear this sound at the end of our present and past progressive verb tense, the ing. I am reading a book. I am singing a song. So whenever we use that ing form, we're going to be using this sound. So to make this sound, you're going to bunch your tongue up in the back, just like you do when you make the g sound. The g sound is made by pulling our tongue back and creating this mound in the back and just tapping it against the soft palate, g. But for the ang sound, you're going to pull it back and actually hold it there and vibrate the vocal cords. So it's going to sound like this. I'll say the sound in isolation 5 times so you can really start to hear it. It's actually pretty hard to say this sound in isolation, so a good thing we don't say it in isolation in American English. What you'll notice if you're looking very closely at my mouth is that my tongue tip isn't doing anything, and that's because it doesn't do anything for this sound. Unlike with our other N, the other N in English, which we hear at the beginning of the word nice, that N is produced with the tongue tip pressed up against the alveolar ridge, which is this spot right behind your front teeth. So for this N that we're doing today, the ang, we don't use the tongue tip at all. We're pulling the tongue back and using that mound and pressing it up against the soft palate. And we're blocking the air completely, so the air is actually going to be coming out of our nose. That's why it's called a nasal sound. In English, we have 3 nasal sounds. We have the represented by the M, the N sound, which is represented by the letter N, and the ang sound, which is represented by the letters ng or nk. Before I jump into our 3 methods for today, I want to make a quick point about this sound. This sound is only found in the middle or the end of words in English. You'll never find it at the beginning of a word. Also, there's going to be 4 situations that we'll review quickly. Let's take the words sunken, sink, singer, and sing. These are the places that we're hearing the ang sound. One thing to note is that you're going to pronounce the K or the G in all positions except when the ang is at the end of the word and is written as ng. Why is this the case? I'm not quite sure, but it is a detail in American English pronunciation that you should know. So listen to those words again. Sunken, sink, singer, sing. So sing is the exception there, right? That's the only time where you don't really hear the G at all. You're holding your tongue back for the ang, and you're not really releasing it or pronouncing that G at all. So one mistake that happens for non-native speakers of English is that they tend to produce that G sound, which I don't blame them. I don't know why we don't, but they produce that G sound so it sounds like this. Sing, thing, ding. Right? So then it doesn't sound as natural. What you want to do is think about holding it there and elongating that sound. Sing, ding, ring, in order to get the sound sounding more natural and more native. Okay, so let's jump into 3 methods that you can use to start hearing the sound and practicing it. Method 1. For method 1, you're going to record yourself saying a set of 8 targeted words, and then you'll re-record yourself saying those words after you've practiced saying these words at least 3 times a day for a week or 2 weeks, or even maybe less than a week if you're making progress quickly. So go check out those 8 words in the practice video. And now we're on to method 2. For method 2, you're going to practice the ang sound and compare it with the n sound in minimal pairs. So some people tend to just drop the ang sound altogether because it's not a sound in their native language, and they replace it with the n sound. So instead of saying thing, they say thin. So in this set of minimal pairs, you're going to practice hearing the difference between just pronouncing the N and pronouncing the ang sound. Those sets of words are in the practice video, so go ahead and check that out to practice with method 2. For method 2, what you'll do is you'll practice saying those minimal pairs as many times as you need to until you start to hear a distinction between the N sound, and the ang sound, And method 3. For method 3, you're going to do something a little bit unusual. What happens is that sometimes people make it harder for themselves with this NK and NG. Because they see the N and they think they need to pronounce it the way that we pronounce most of our N's in English, which is the by putting our tongue tip right behind the front teeth on the alveolar ridge. So what happens is a person who's not a native speaker of American English might say think, where my tongue is doing some aerobics there and acrobatics to get from the front of the mouth to the back of the mouth. So it's actually much easier than that. Your tongue is already going to be back there, and so it can move into the G or the K sound. Think. So what I want you to do is just take one of the words from the list and practice saying it where you're using an N and compare it with saying it with an ang sound. So I'm going to take the word think, for example, and I'll just practice and say think, think. That's what we don't want because the ang sound is in this word. What we want is think, think. And when I use method 3, I'm just going to sit down and really think about and focus on what's happening with my tongue, what do I feel it doing. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you enjoyed this video and found it helpful, definitely hit that like button or comment in the section below. You guys are doing an awesome job. Keep up the hard work.